Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mashur Ahmed Zidan, and I would like to welcome you all to this webinar titled The Transition from Classroom to Corporate. We have organized this webinar because we have figured out that a lot of students might face a lot of confusion. They might have a lot of questions in regards to the transition from classroom to corporate. In not only limited to corporate, I believe a lot of students might even have a lot of questions regarding the proper transition, the methods, and what are the opportunities that they should imbibe or take on while transitioning from a classroom to a job life. With that being said, we have organized this webinar and we have three amazing panelists for this particular webinar. So we have Rafeed Elahi Chowdhury, the co-founder of Torun. Hello, Rafeed bhai.
Hi Zida, how's it going?
Hello, bhai. Great to host you. Uh, then we
It's well.
have the, then we have the curriculum and material development specialist at BRAC Youth Platform, none other than Sakib Bin Rashid. I think Sakib bhai needs no introduction. So hello, Sakib bhai.
Hello everyone. Hi. Thanks for having me over.
Thank you so much for being a part of the show. And finally, we have the brand manager of British American Tobacco, none other than Sayeef Chowdhury. Hello, Sayeef.
Hi. It's really good to be here.
Thank you so much to each and every guest of ours for being a part of this particular show or particular webinar. To start off the questionnaire, I would like to begin with Sakib Bhaiya. Bhaiya, it has been seen like in a lot of companies or in a lot of MNCs or in life in general that certain soft skills are very very much handy. But then again, if we look at our educational institutions, not a lot of those soft skills are offered by them. So they need to go to external sources to learn those soft skills, be it a graphics designing or even a communication or even public speaking for that matter. So, Bhai, my question to you would be: do you believe educational institution should start introducing skill development courses so that students are able to learn them through their university curriculum rather than through an external source?
Thank you for that very good question. I think our entire approach of tertiary education needs to change. Um, I think not only courses, our entire university education system needs to be a little more employment oriented. And I know it does sound commercial, but I think if our objective is to create a more capable society, a society that is capable of building more institutions and sustaining those institutions. I think we need to inject these values, inject these qualities among the young generation of today. So I think that is a priority. So I won't say this needs to happen through specific courses. I think whatever field that you are choosing right now in university needs to be more practical. Which I mean, if you are joining BBA, it's understandable that you are to join some business, either as an entrepreneur or as an employee, as an executive. So if that happens, you need to know how to operate within that role. So it's not enough for you to know the theories of business, the theories of marketing. You also need to know how to apply those theories once you are in that position. So I think, yes, the universities need to change their approach of delivering tertiary education.
Thank you so much,
Right.
Bhai.
So my question to Saif Bhaiya, do you believe our classroom education or courses provide that adequate insight knowledge as per how to operate in the corporate sector?
Okay. The thing is, end of the day, when we have the courses in university or the education system, wherever we say, it's not going to be a copy paste of 100% what you get in the corporate world. It's quite impossible to do that. I think what is important, I believe when I was studying North South University, what I did, for example, the major courses that I had, it helped me. I don't know nowadays how it has evolved, but the way I will look into it is actually, it also depends on the person to person perspective, because ready for the corporates. It's all about you have a theoretical knowledge and how you use that theoretical knowledge into your practical world corporate. To do this bridging, what is important from the university side is actually, or from the education system, is how do you actually ensure that the students get that experience into the universities? So normally this should happen during when you take the major course or at the end of your university time. So normally the major courses. So it's very important that we ensure that when we do the major course, practical knowledge or implementations side by side happening together. Because the moment it happens, you get the real taste of life. Or else, the moment you move out to the corporate world, it's going to be a completely detached. So for me, I think it's there, but of course there is room for improvement. Because for me, what I have experienced is I had to actually put a lot of effort by myself to get it done. As in, like, how do I ensure that this that I'm studying, how does it relate back to my corporate world? How can I actually ensure that it is implemented in the world? How do I know about it? I had that effort. Ideally, university should put in that effort so that every student should get it. So, I mean, just to share an experience, small quick one. I did my masters from UK. So, what I really found different from my masters and from my graduation is every time I was doing a course there, people actually told me how it is implemented in the corporate world. So, be it the lecturer himself or herself is in the corporates, or they used to bring in the guest lecturers or anyone so that students can see how it's happening. So that thing I think is still there's a gap, and I think that is some we can make some improvements there.
And I believe that when we talk about skill development, I believe that beside external sources, a lot of people find, special students find a lot of influence in regards to extracurricular activities, be it a debate tournament or case solving competitions. So, Rafid, my question would be towards you that how much of a role does ECAs or let's say a business case competition plays in regards to helping students know about various skill development? Does it teach more learning or more experience compared to a classroom learning? Would you agree with that?
Definitely, definitely. So I bet we all are familiar with the scenario that when we used to be kids, we used to have a lot of be with a boy or a girl. We used to have kitchen sets. We used to have doctor sets because we used to think that yeah, we're probably carrying out an operation or cooking in the kitchen. So we used to think that we are doing something practical, right? Which Sakib Bhaiya was speaking about earlier. So similarly, if I am just discussing textbook knowledge in the classroom and not implementing them, I think that we are falling behind in some way, and the people probably at least trying to go forward with business competitions are doing great. So, what happens with in a business competition, or if I have to talk about club activities in particular, you're taking care of the logistics, you're taking care about the promotions, you're taking care of an entity as a whole, right? And you're taking care of a team. So you are somewhat learning some of the things that you're supposed to do in real life when you graduate out of the classroom, right? So similarly, I think that competitions like this, activities like this, will definitely put the students a lot of steps ahead because that is putting them closer to what they're actually aiming to do in life. So, if I am not a business student, if I am probably a student uh, of another area, could be I'm studying history, or probably if I'm studying environmental science, then maybe I should be doing projects or taking initiatives to work regarding something that will help me in the future. So it has to be relevant, and it all obviously has to be something very practical. And obviously, to add to that, I think we all we all should carry on an ecosystem, not to teach that okay, this is the thing. For example, suppose Model United Nations, right? I know a lot of people who love Model United Nations because probably they love public speaking because they want to work with policy making in the future. But I also know a lot of people who want to do MUN because they thought that this is the cool thing to do. So instead of wasting your time on that, we should be focusing on something relevant so that when we're working in our corporate life or maybe our professional life, we can pull it off perfectly. So that's all from me. Thank you.
So my next question is to Shakib Bhaiya. So Bhaiya, in accordance to you, how important is it for students to take part in extracurricular or co-curricular activities in their university life?
And I think Rafid sums it up really well, and he talks a lot about the importance of ECAs. I think from a personal point of view, I was not one of the brightest students of my class, not in school, not in college, not in my university. But I think the reason why I got away with it is because I was able to learn certain skills outside my classroom through ECAs. that even my classrooms were not able to provide me with. So I think for potential job seekers and entrepreneurs, it's very important that they do join ECS. And a lot of time, what happens is people join a particular ECA and they do not win. The kind of society that we bring our children up in teaches us the very importance of winning. Most our activities are very winning oriented, right? We need to win. There is an innate urge there. I think losing has its own intrinsic value, and even without winning, even without doing fabulously well in a particular ECA, you can get a lot of value out of it. First of all, you find a lot of people. You build your own network where you everything's happening there. The world seems so small. Like I was a debater for the better part of my adult life, and whenever I see, oh, this person became that in that company, I suddenly know, oh, I know this guy. I have debated with him. I know this guy. This guy was president of that club. So it's not like I am taking unfair advantage of those people. It's just that I know a lot of people. The world is smaller for me. And also the thing I was saying about losing, I think what ECS did to me is, it taught me how to process wins and defeats. Not every day you are going to win. There are going to be days when you will lose, and how to process those defeats. So that's a very important part and an important lesson in your life. I think that's another value that ECS or any kind of sport for that matter can add in your life.
I think rightfully said, Sakib hai. And I think when we talk about ECS and skill developments or soft skills in general, a lot of the times, a lot of students have come across these issues that, a lot of MNCs give a lot of priority to these skill developments or some soft skills or those external abilities compared to their CGPA. Whether it's a fact or not, I believe it's up to clarifications. But I would, as Saib has, since Saib has been a part of a very, very renowned MNC, that do you actually believe that at times, corporates give a lot more importance to, I think Saib got a bit disconnected. I think we will move on to our next question since Saibha is like getting a bit disconnected. Acha, he's back. Saibha, are you being able to hear us?
Sorry, I think I got it. Yeah.
All right. So, Bhaiya, the
Yes.
question was
Yeah.
in regards
Please go ahead.
to like giving importance of external activities over CGPA. Bhaiya, do you believe that it's a myth, or do you believe that in reality it is been a practice?
Okay. It is in practice. I think. Hello.
Yes, yes, we can hear you. I think just since I is facing a bit of technical difficulties, we'll definitely move on to our next question. So my question would be, since we are talking about skill development and external practices, I think that in these days, it has been seen that startups has been a big part of a lot of students' ambition. Like while a lot of us think of being a part of an MNCs or having a job, a lot of students also think of having our own startup. I think Rafeed Bhaiya is probably one of the biggest examples. He's been part of a lot of startups. One of the most popular being of that is Torun. So, Bhaiya, when a person or when a student has his own startup while still continuing his undergrad education, do you believe in that regard that student loses its perspective or just motivation to earn a job because that person already has his own company? So, what are your thoughts on that? Since you have been a huge part of it yourself.
Well, I have seen a lot of people since you asked this question. So Sakib Bhai was talking about winning and losing. Let's talk about someone who doesn't succeed in building a proper startup. Let's talk about someone who failed at building a startup. I have seen people who were like, okay, it's probably time for me to do a job so that I learn from the corporate and then go back to building my startup or probably revamp the entire business model. I have also seen people who are like, no, just because it's a failed startup, probably I'll become depressed and I don't want to do anything. If I'm talking about winning, I have seen very successful people building their own startup and then moving on to do a job which probably was his or her passion. So, speaking about startups, different people have different ambitions, and I think we should all try to respect what the other person wants. For example, if in a classroom the teacher is asking what you want to do after graduation, and if we see someone telling that, okay, I don't want to working in an MNC. I want to be a freelancer. I want to be a writer. I want to be this. I want to be that. So probably some people would look at him or her in another way, that he doesn't want to work in an MNC. What kind of person is he? So we should be accepting the fact that people might have different sets of ambition, and also just because someone failed a startup or someone succeeded in constructing a startup very properly doesn't mean that that person cannot move on and figure out other things in life. Obviously, he or she can experience the new things. I have seen people who were very successful in building one startup, so they thought that, okay, it's time for me to diversify my portfolio and build another startup, and then they failed and they came back to one. I know a lot of successful individuals who are my seniors that after failing 6-7 startups, they finally found that sweet spot for a job that they never imagined would make them happy so much. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it definitely does have. I think, yeah.
Yeah. So my next question is to Sakib Bhaiya. Jay, a lot of times students always struggle between the options of MBA, job, and startups, right? So in accordance to you, if you had to suggest a right career path of students to take, then which one you would suggest?
I think there is no one right career path for everyone. If there were, everyone would have been doing that, and that would have been overcrowded, and that would have been the wrong career choice. So I think the first career choice that you need to take is a self-assessment, assessment of your abilities, assessment of your interests, assessment of your acumen, and based on that, you need to take decisions. I have seen way too many people taking decisions based on what their peers are doing. I'll talk about my friends. I know a lot of people who are going abroad for their masters, which is a fantastic thing. But if I ask them, why are you taking this degree? Why? There's a very famous book written by Simon Sinek. Start with why. Always start with why before picking any hobby or any ECA or any life decision. Just ask yourself why you are doing this. So when I ask them this question, why are you opting for a foreign degree? They don't know. They simply say that, well, they are doing, maybe after coming back from this degree, I'll get a better job. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, right? Tertiary education, expensive tertiary education is often a scam, right? I don't mean they are scamming us, we are scamming ourselves. So yes, a self-assessment is very important. And lastly, personally, if you are asking me, Jay, what you would do, I would do exactly what I did. I did not pursue MBA. I did not pursue a corporate job. I started with an NGO. I joined BRAC, and I'm happy with my slow life. I'm happy with my steady life. Some other people might enjoy a bit of a chase, enjoy that run. If that's your game, sure, play.
As rightfully answered. And while we are talking about MNCs as being a possible career choice, I think reiterating to my previous question, I believe that Saibha was about to answer it in regards to the weight that is given on external activities compared to CGPA. Sabhaya, I think the floor is all yours.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, okay. First of all, I think what I need to say is actually CGPA. End of the day, it is important. We cannot just ignore and say that that is not important. But what we get lost in translation is actually sometimes we think that is the only thing that is important, or that is the only thing that will get me a good job. That is not. I think that is not right. What I have seen over the years of time is actually, first of all, I mean, again, I'm not the first bencher. I'm not student sort of a thing. So I have a struggle during my student period of life. So CGPA, yes, is one of the thing, but end of the day, extracurricular activity is very important because this actually helps the employer to understand how this fellow is coping up. Because whenever you are into an extracurricular activities, there are a lot of things to see because it's not an alone thing. You do it with some other people. It's a collaboration, team approach. You get a thing done. So there is a objective to it. There's an end goal to it. You are achieving it. So end of the day, for an employer, it's very easy to make a decision that yes, I want this guy to join my company. Is because not only he has a degree or he has a good result, it's also because he knows how to get things done from A to B, and he knows how to work on a team. So for me, I think it plays a very equal balance. And in today's world, if you see, you will see a lot of people, to be honest, who doesn't have a very good result, but is doing very good in career. And that organizations nowadays not only look into your results, numbers. It's not just a number. It's about how you get things done, whether you're a team player or not. So, so yeah, curricular activities, extracurricular activities are very important, to be honest, and it does play an important role.
Yeah. So my question is to Asif bhai again that how much of role does how much of a role does having a role in regards to doing part-time job play or help in the transition?
Sorry, part-time job, right?
Yes.
Sorry, hello. Yeah, okay. For me, I think I'll not specify just on the part-time thing itself. What I've seen or what I've experienced or people coming into the organization, when I talk with them, it's not only just study. I think that's the important bit. It's not just studying into the classroom. It's not only just reading the books, getting a result out of it. It's about what you do out of this classroom. Anything you do outside classroom actually plays in people. It's not don't just get stick into a part-time job. And if you just ask me if it is about part-time job, then what it is, then I think what will be important for the students to see, if you're doing a part-time, make sure that is relevant to you. Even if it is not relevant, how does it is helping you, so that when someone, just a minute ago, Sakib was saying, if you're going for a postgrad degree or offsite, you need to know why you're doing it. Until unless you don't know why you're going it becomes a bit redundant. So if you're doing a part-time job, anything you do is good, but it better really if you can relate back and see how it's helping you. But the way I see it, or the way I have seen it over the years of time, is anything you do outside classroom helps a lot, because it helps you to learn and it helps you to grow. So yeah, it is helpful.
Yes, and as Saibha was saying, like part-time jobs does play an important role. And when we talk about part-time jobs, we specifically want to talk about certain jobs such as content writing or acting as a graphics designer in an ad agency or such organization. So my question would be to Rafeed Bhai. I think Rafeed Bhai, through your organizations, whether it's Torun or any other organization that you have been part of, you have been providing such opportunities to a lot of undergraduate students. So I feel you've seen that very closely. So in accordance to your perspective and experience, how much of that add up and how much does it actually help undergraduate students in regards to transition into corporate world or any other job sector for that matter?
All right. So, speaking Torun as a platform, we have a lot of segments starting from humor, satire. There is a portion for sports. There is a portion for technology, business, etc., etc. So, whenever someone joins the team, we try to make that person relevant to what he or she wants to write about. For example, someone simply wants to work with, let's say, ad agencies. So we involve that person in a sector where they would be able to work more with such work, which eventually will become helpful in the future. If someone wants to become a content writer, suppose someone's studying medical, right? And we suggest that person should be writing about similar topics which is relevant to his or her field, so that it not only helps them with Torun, it also helps them when they're working in the future. So every time I take a training session or if I speak, I suggest everyone to be involved with content writing of some sort, because you don't need to be a content writer only because you want to work at an ad agency. You can, you know, Bill Gates, right? He has this website, it's called Gates Notes. And I bet a lot of people don't know that he's an excellent content writer. So just because you are only a content writer doesn't mean that you cannot be involved with other things. There is a health section in the newspapers because there are doctors who are writing articles about it, right? So they are good writers. I know a lot of businessmen writing in the opinion pieces on in the business section because they are good writers. So speaking about content writing, I think that more or less everyone should be involved with some sort of content writing because as long as it's relevant and it's helping them out to figure out more of their field. And another thing is, from the perspective of the employers, when they're seeing that someone's application, if suppose you're visiting my LinkedIn profile and you're seeing that in the publication section, in the publication sector section, I have a lot of articles in renowned national dailies. So obviously the employer will be very impressed, and the employer will be like, okay, this person is giving an opinion piece because that person knows what he or she is doing, and that person has figured out the theory that he or she is writing about, right? So that gives employer a better scope of understanding the employee who's applying for the job. So from the perspective of content writing, I think everyone should be involved with content writing.
And another thing which I would like to ask you, had like you have also been a part of the Daily Star. You worked as a reporter, I believe, there for quite some time. So does that experience also help in regards to having your own startup now, or like let's say if you want to venture out in any future project or opportunities?
Well, as for me, when I joined the Daily Star back in 2017, it helped me figure out a lot of content writing opportunities. I didn't know how to write an article properly, how to format it properly, how to send a letter to an editor that please publish my article, right? So taking those learnings, I tried to implement those in Torun. So if you're speaking whether it helped, yes, it did, and it was quite relevant for me.
I think that.
Yeah, so my question is to Sakib Bhaiya. A lot of times, many students struggle in regards to preparing for a job interview or preparing for their job recruitment process in general. So, what advice would you give to these students?
Right. So I think not only job interview, I think the struggle starts a lot before that. They don't know, oftentimes they don't know how to prepare for a job, what are the documents that they need to prepare? What are the questions that they need to know the answers of, right? So first of all, you need to prepare yourself a very nice CV. And when I say very nice, I don't mean open Photoshop or open PowerPoint, bring out the fanciest template you can find, and then all guns blazing. So it doesn't work that way, right? Templates were in at one point. People used to be impressed with flashy CVs. They're not anymore, so they're out. So yeah, you need to be able to represent yourself and your skills and your interests in a concise way. That's the purpose of a CV. You don't want to ramble on for 5-6 pages. You need to keep it short and crisp. Second, you need to know the JD. I think very important part of appearing in any job application, be it written or verbal interview, you need to know the JD. What's the work that you're applying for? Oftentimes we know, okay, it's a project officer job in an Australian INGO. That's all I know. But read further into the job description, what will be your work and what will be expected of you, and then try to find out the similarities or the connections between the JD with the experience or the education that you have already. What connects you to this job? Why do you think it's a suitable job for you, or why do you think you are a suitable candidate for this job? So once you know the JD, you should also find out about the organization itself. How does it operate, and what the organization might give you to do. So once you learn about the work and the organization, you'll be able to answer a lot of questions that they ask. And lastly, learn about the industry itself. If you are about to join, say, health sector, you need to understand. So for example, in my first job, I was applying for a project officer job in the Fred Hollows Foundation. It's an eye health organization, eye health. So I had to, before the job application, before the job exam, I found out what the word MO means. MO in medical sector, what does MO means? MO means medical officer. Or what does RMO mean? So even the basic abbreviations of that particular field might come handy. So I learned all of those things beforehand, and then they did appear on the written exam. So also find out a little bit about the industry itself.
Bhaiya, I would like to have a follow-up question in regards to what you said, that interviews is something a lot of people struggle with. And since you have been like a good public speaker for a long, long time, if you had to give any suggestions in regards to, preparing oneself for a job interview, because I believe a lot of students get very nervous and a lot of them even have sleepless nights before a particular job interview, or even an interview for an internship offer as well. So if you had to give any suggestions from your end in that regards.
Right. So, first thing is, an interview is not a public speaking competition or a beauty pageant where you need to sound very smart. It's not. You need to be able to be precise. That's it. And no one is trying to make you appear nervous, or like no one is marking you on how witty you are. And people are actually trying to understand if you'll be a good fit for the work. A lot of people, and this is also a misconception among the employers, they value you, they judge you based on how witty you are, how fast you could respond to that question. Oftentimes in the real application of the work, your wit or your immediate presence of mind does not come handy as much as your work ethics does, as much as your discipline does. So I think it's high time our employers valued that. And I also ask and urge the potential employees or job seekers to display these qualities as well. Display discipline, uh, display dedication, display work ethics. These are as important as being witty, being fast thinkers, because the people that I have come across in my career were mostly fast thinkers, but I have met very few executors. We always look for people who will execute, not only plan, but execute. So tell them that you can execute, prove it that you can execute.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to add something to what Sakib Bhai said. So I just remembered that back during an finance Olympiad, Sakib Bhai told me, so there was this performance by a student who was trying to sell his belt in front of the crowd, like right in a very fast Bangla way. So Sakib Bhai told me that these kind of people who get up on the bus, who have so much confidence that they speak impromptu and they can sell you anything, starting from a toothbrush to a belt. They are actually the ones implementing. So when he said that, I just recall that moment.
I think definitely. But if I had to ask your perspective, Rafeed bhai, in regards to cracking an interview in general, I think because you have also conducted a lot of interviews yourself, being a co-founder of Torun.
Okay, regarding this, so a few days back, my boss wanted to recruit some part-time executors for a position. So when I was sitting beside him and going through the applications, I'll tell you about some very hilarious moments. So there was this section. That which ECA are you currently involved with? Which extracurricular activities are you currently involved with? So a student with a CGPA of over 3.8, he replied, I am currently involved with the extracurricular activities that I'm currently involved with. And I'm like, wow, big brains, big brains. That person has a CGPA of over 3.8 and he is from a very reputed university. And when I was going through his profile, I saw that he has a lot of followers. He has done a lot of work, but he doesn't know how to portray himself in front of the employer that I'm the perfect fit for this position, right? So I know that we often blame the education system. We often blame the employers for not creating the examples, and we say that this situation is taking place because of the culture. This is the culture. So I would like to quote from this famous dialogue from a web series. So situation doesn't happen because of culture. Culture is happening because of situation. Like if everyone doesn't play their role right, that starts from the students, that starts from the educational institutes, that starts from the employers of setting a benchmark properly. If they don't turn this culture something else, then this culture will become a situation for someone else. So yeah, it's a bit philosophical, but I think that not only the students should be blamed. I mean, probably no one told that student that hey buddy, that's not how you actually submit an application. How come other people are being able to submit their applications properly and they're the ones getting a job, and the ones who are not being able to submit properly are falling behind despite having such a rich profile? It's because no one's telling them that this is where you're exactly going wrong. And from that perspective, everyone in the entire ecosystem needs to play a very vital role in constructing this. So yeah, that was a lengthy answer, but yeah, there you go.
Just to add one more bit to it, Bhai, do you think presentability plays a factor in regards to, while you're giving an interview, besides the other aspects?
Definitely. I'll tell you about an interview. So uh, back when we had Ashik Bhai in Torun. So Ashik Bhai was recruiting a lot of people, and I was just seeing the interviews. I wasn't asking any questions. It was virtually. It was during last year. So there was this person who had all the necessary things that we needed for the interview. He was like the perfect candidate, and he was from a very renowned public university. So Ashik Bhai asked him that what made you interested about Tum, and he replied, well, I don't know much about your organization. Can you tell me about it? So that's that exact moment when you piss off a recruiter. You can be a normal person. It's completely fine to not know about an organization because that person hasn't heard of that organization before. But if that person is not doing the research beforehand and asking that to the person who's sitting on the other side of the table, then that is pretty offensive. Also, uh, then at the end of the interview, we asked him that, do you have any questions for us? And he was like, well, you're the one interviewing. Why don't you ask me questions? And he had a very rich CGPA, let me tell you. The reason he did not get recruited and another person got recruited because the girl which we took in, she did not have so much experiences. She has a CGPA of below 3, but she perfectly quantified us that yes, I'm the perfect person for the job. So yeah, it's not always about having rich profiles. It's not always about the application. It's also about the presentability. You need to let that other person know that if you're counting on me, I've got your back. And obviously, this is not a journey that I know everything. I want to learn from you. And the moment you do that, that's where you go ahead of the others.
Right. So my question to Saif Bhaiya, how much of a role does campus ambassador program or internship or leadership program play a role in preparing students for entering into the corporate world?
Uh, internship, leadership program, anything you name it. To be honest, it does play. I mean that can for the last 10 minutes, what we have been discussing, we have been discussing about things. It's not just related to your classroom things. It's about anything beyond your classroom, and it starts from the point of the organization where I'm applying, knowing your job responsibilities where you're applying. So if those things matters together with doing this internship or ambassador program, any of this, because I'll relate back to the reply that I gave when I was saying about your part-time job, as I said, because if part-time job sort of a thing can relate back to your working environment, then of course things like internship is much more helpful. So yes, I do know that there are people who actually when they graduate, they straight away get a job. That's fine. But when you don't get a job, but if you plan for an internship in between, sometimes you can do a summer internship if you want. I mean, the point is internship helps you to know an organization, to know the corporate cultures, because end of the day, when we move into the day one of my day in BAT, I remember I did my undergrad, I did my master. So I was Data Jai. End of the day, I was just the boy who just joined in. To be honest, it's just literally my first day in life. So I literally I'm nothing to them because now I have joined already, and people who are already working there, they know a lot about corporate world, the culture, the how to work. So if I do an internship ahead of time, then it puts me actually ahead of the game. But so when I go a step in my day one, day two, day three, I know how things work. I know how to talk to senior line manager or to senior manager. I know how to talk with how to how to be a team player, because you have actually seen it like a demo version in during your internship period. So for example, for it is quite interesting. So I did my internship with BAT, but unfortunately it was in supply chain. It is not related because I was a business graduate. I was in supply chain, but still I took that internship. The reason was I took it. It's not because I know supply chain will not help me at all. Even down the line, people doesn't even ask me. Even most of they ask me why you went supply chain. My answer is actually, and the intention was to understand the organization. My intention was not to learn supply chain. My intention was to understand how do you work, how do you talk, how do you present an idea, how do you work into a team. Because when you are in university, you can pick your team members, right? When we have a project, we pick, oh, let's 3 of us are close friends, let's do this, and then we make a group. So you are in your comfort zone. But when you're in organization, you are not. You don't pick it. So hence, for me, the internship played a very important role. I believe that Sakeeb Bhaiya also had an internship.
I believe that Saiba is once again having some technical difficulties. Uh, but I would like to ask the same question to Sakib Bhaiya, that if you had to talk about a bit about Bhaiya internships, because I believe that in regards to transition into a job sector, internships do play a big role, and in a lot of the universities, internships is a big factor. It's a part of your undergrad education. So if you have to talk about the importance of internship.
I have had two kinds of interns with me, around me, under me. The one kind is who are doing an internship because their course requires them to, and they come to the workplace, do a few photocopies, bring a few coffees, and they think that that's all an internship is about. I have had a different kind of interns who, if someone didn't tell that they're interns, one wouldn't be able to know that they're interns and not full-time employees. They worked as if they were full-time employees. They had total ownership of that work. Even if for 3 months, even if for 6 months, they had total ownership. So if you are doing an internship with the intention of learning to the fullest, and in the process you want to help the organization as well, I think it's mutually beneficial. And I also want to point out something to the employers. Because someone has to learn, I think it's unethical for anyone to employ somebody with a very little payment. I think that's my philosophical dilemma with internship. I think employers tend to exploit these young minds because they're looking for an opportunity, they're looking for experience, and hence we sort of exploit that. I think that's unfair. If we are taking his work, if we are taking his effort and using that to further our purpose, I think we should compensate them fairly.
Rafid bhai, I would like to ask you the same question regarding internship, and I would like to add something to that. While we talk about team management, and I feel that in internship that is also a factor, does being involved in a particular student club, since North South has a lot of student clubs, does that help in regards to an internship or in regards to transitioning into a job opportunity or job life?
Definitely, definitely. When you're involved with a club, you know a lot of alumni. You have an alumni base who can connect you to your seniors, and you get be exposed to better opportunities. That's first of all. Secondly, the club kind of grooms you about how to work in the real life. Like when you're working in a club, you know that probably the faculty advisor is pressurizing you on taking care of the logistics, handling the promotion, carrying out an event. So obviously that shapes you up for an internship properly. And the answer to your first question, what was the first question that you asked?
Internships.
Yeah. Internships definitely play a very important role. So the point that Sakib Bhaiya mentioned, I completely agree with that. When someone is being able to show that no, I'm not an intern, just because that person has a title called intern, if it wasn't for that, that person is not an intern. That person is behaving and trying his or her level best to prove that I'm the correct person for the job. If you ever hire me for a long term, I think that's the ideal role of an internship. And for the people who are like, okay, I probably need an internship, like, hey buddy, can you place a role for me in an organization? I have to get down with my coursework, or probably I have to show something, or probably I need some pocket money because I need to go on a date with my girlfriend. That's not the ideal internship that I would prefer. So whatever I was about to say, I think Sakib Bhaiya mentioned that.
I think that Saib has started with the questions in regards to internship, and since he's part of BAT, I think BAT internship is something a lot of people look forward to. And also, I think BAT also offers a campus ambassador program to exceed campus ambassador. So, if you could continue your answer, I believe that because of technical difficulties,
Yeah.
your answer was
So now
disrupted.
I think I made the point that I was trying to make is very simple. Uh, Anything that helps you to know the organization ahead of time, it actually helps, because when you actually land into the organization as a job, I mean, when you get a permanent job, to be honest, you get very little time to get adapted. So yes, for a month or so, the people will treat you as, okay, you're the new person. Okay, get to learn. But there's no much time, and you understand the competition is also very high. So the more you learn before you come into an organization or before you come into a permanent role, it's good. So now the question is, how do you learn it? So I think, I mean, the rest of the people were covering it. Whatever opportunity you get, it's not about, of course, I mean, yes, I mean, Amra Maze Maze, we had a lot of other reasons to do internship because it helps, but to know, if I work there, what do I need get to out of there? What do I need out of this place? You need to be very clear. If you are very clear, then when you move from internship to a corporate world, then you can transform, and then you can also relate back that, oh, this is why I did. Because I have seen a lot of people, to be honest, internship করছে একটা organization বা একটা জায়গায়, but job করতেছে কিন্তু আরেকটা জায়গাতে. So sometimes it gets a bit hard to relate back specifically in terms of the work. For example, internship করছে হয়তো বা ব্যাংকে, but full-time job করতেছে BAT, it gets very difficult. How do you relate back to the job information? But what is important to relate back is actually the culture, because end of the day, corporate culture is pretty much same wherever you go, wherever you work. So that's a very common element. And during the interview process, or even when you work, it will help.
Season, just to add something to that, you were talking about campus ambassadors. So I have a friend, Arshad. He's also from North South. He's from my batch. So I saw him being the campus ambassador of an MNC, and I think he pulled it off so perfectly that when I was constantly disturbing him during Battle of Minds, that dude, I need help with this, I need help with that, he never complained, and he pulled it off so perfectly that he was receiving a lot of complaints, but he handled them so well, as if he was a part of the organization. That I am sorry on behalf of the technical difficulties and whatever is happening, but trust me, it's all gonna go well at the end. And he took care of each and every message. So I think that's the ideal campus ambassador. And I also know another campus ambassador from another multinational. And I'm asking, okay, what are you currently doing? And he's like, okay, I'm attending this supply chain. I'm attending supply chain workshop. I'm like, why? You're not even a supply chain student. They're like, okay, so they need a lot of viewers for their so-called webinars. So I think that they want all of our campus ambassadors to watch those webinars so they get enough viewers. And I thought that being one of the top multinationals of the country, it was very low of them to do so. I'm not going to mention the name, of course, but compared to that, Arshad was doing an excellent job. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to point out.
It varies, I believe, from MNC to MNC. Zaki, you're muted.
Oops. Yeah. So my question to Saib is, do tell us a bit about your journey with BAT, and why did you choose BAT as your career choice?
Okay, my journey with BAT is very, I mean, it was very sad for me the way it started. কারণ আমি হচ্ছে internship করার পর then I gave interview and I got rejected in the final round. So BAT has a policy, if you get rejected in the final round, you cannot apply for 2 years. So after that, I mean, on exec, I have tried a lot, then it never worked out. Then I decided to go for my postdoc. Then when I came back, then I joined BAT. So yeah, I started with the field and ended up in brand exec. Then I moved to Malaysia. So now working for BAT Malaysia, so as brand manager. So it has been a very interesting journey, to be honest, but I had to go through a lot of struggle. I mean, initial phase of life moving, I started, actually my first posting was in Rajshahi. So Rajshahi, then Chittagong, then Dhaka. So I had to move a lot. But I'll share something, because আমি তখন হচ্ছে বিএটিতে জয়েন করার আগে এপেক্সে জব করছিলাম for a very short period of time. So ওখানকার হেড অফ সেলস আমাকে একটা কথা বলতেছিল, সেটা হচ্ছে, because I was a bit upset, like Rajshahi কে যাবে. He was like, when you have time, go and explore the market, because at a point in time when you get married, you have kids and you have a lot of family responsibilities. It's a bit difficult when to move around. So, but now you can go around, learn the market. It's not about learning the tobacco or anything. Market is a market, consumers is a consumers. So that was an interesting experience. And why I choose BAT, uh, I actually, the way it started, actually, a lot of people, I know a lot of people who have been working with BAT in my family. So from there, I had this interest of seeing what is this so much about BAT, what is there. Then I went for a few times with them to visiting the offices. Then I did my internship. That's where I clicked. It clicked as in like I've seen the culture, the orientation during my internship, the culture, the importance or the investment they do behind people to ensure that there is a proper development happening behind people. I'm not saying that other organizations don't. I'm not saying that. But because I went and did my internship with BAT, I had that idea that this is a place where I can work. It's not only about I can contribute, it's also about I can learn because they do invest a lot of time behind people. So, yeah, so from there it all started. And yeah, now down the line, 8 years, still continuing with BAT.
I think fabulous, and I think we have got a lot of viewers, and a lot of our viewers are asking a lot of relevant questions in the comment section. I think Zaka would like to ask one such question. I think it's a cumulative of a lot of questions that we have gotten in the comment section.
Yeah, so the viewers were asking to Bhaiya, how do you manage time with a lot of work, for example, like extracurricular activities and maintaining a good CV. So time management কিভাবে করতে হবে বা করবে?
I think Sakib bhai, if you could address that question in regards to time management.
So I think university education. A lot of people will hate me for saying this. I think university education, maintaining a good CV is easier than it looks like. At least it was for me, probably because the subject that I was studying wasn't a popular subject, but something that I liked or I had a grip on. My subject was peace and conflict studies. I'm sure none of you have even heard about that subject. But
So,
that's the thing.
yeah.
If you are studying something that you like, I think it's easier for you to get a grip on that. And second thing is, you do have a lot of time on your hand, truth be told. Install an app on your phone that calculates the time you spend on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Then you'll be able to tell daily how much time you're spending on your phone. And then you'll understand that how much time you actually have. So it's actually way more than it looks like. I debated way more than I should have during my graduation, and I still got out with a reasonably good CGPA. So don't worry about it. Extracurricular activities should not be a problem in maintaining CGPAs.
I think same question I would like to ask to Rafid bhai, because a lot of the people in the comment section I'm seeing, probably a lot of your friends are saying that you have been able to maintain a good CG and also doing a lot of activities. So
I
your take on that.
that's not true. I am not being able to maintain a good CGPA, but a common question that I get a lot is how I'm being able to manage everything properly, because I think I like to prioritize that. Okay, I need to get done with this. So no matter what happens, I always submit my assignments on time. I never request the teacher that please extend the deadline, or I never tell my boss that I need a bit more time. I just know how to prioritize. But no, I don't have a very good CGPA. That's not true.
Right. And I think in regards to Saib, I believe that BAT also has a lot of opportunities. Let's say Battle of Minds it introduced to encourage students to participate in business competition and exceed campus semester program and the internship program we talked about. So does BAT also encourage students to be a part of a lot of co-curricular, extracurricular activities besides their studies?
Yeah, of course. Actually, to be very straight and simple, yes, it does. Uh, I me personally, to be honest, I regret I am not part of a lot of extracurricular activities. I've not done a lot of extracurricular activities during my study period of time. এবং আমি আমার অনেক ইন্টারভিউতে এবং together within BAT, I had to face this question like why? Because if they always want to see what else you do. It's not about the classroom. It's not about the theoretical things. So I will say, if I talk about BAT, yes, but that doesn't mean, again, That doesn't mean because I'm saying BAT focus on that doesn't mean that okay, let's do all the extracurricular activities in the world, and then because someone working there said that's the thing. That's not the point. The point is about having the balance. You need to have the right balance. You need to have the right relevance. Because আপনি যখন একটা ইন্টারভিউতে আসলে বসবেন, as I mean someone was mentioning here, that the discussion is not about how good or bad you are. The bigger discussion একটা এমপ্লয়ার তখন মাথায় চিন্তা করে সেটা হচ্ছে আমার যে রোলে লোকটা লাগবে ওই রোলে হয়তো বা 20 জন লোক কাজ করে, সো আই নিড আ পারসন যে আসলে হচ্ছে very good team player, it very motivates people, energetic. So all these things needs to come in. এই জিনিসগুলি বোঝার জন্য just a result or classroom knowledge doesn't help. এই জিনিসটা বোঝার জন্য you need a lot of other activities. So hence the balance and the relevance. I have done something which has no relevance and I have no idea why I have done it. Then it's again a problem. So suggestion will be, yes, do it. It creates a value, but make sure that it creates that relevance and you can explain it to the employer that this is why I have done it. And people will love to hear why you have done it.
Perfect answer.
So my next question is to Sakib Bhaiya. Bhaiya, do tell us about your journey with 10 Minute School and how important of a role had it played in your life?
I think, Mane, it's. I should write a book about it. It did really change my life. I when I look back at my life, I look at two things that literally changed my life. One is debating. Had I not debated, I would not have met a lot of people. I would not have experienced a lot of things. I would not have learned a lot of things that made me who I am today. And also, joining 10 Minute School was also a life changing experience. I think the biggest perk was seeing a company growing from its inception to something really big and becoming a part of that, experiencing that change from a nucleus to an entire big body, a big corporation. I think that journey was really motivating. And when you go through that journey, you know that you can build big things from small things. The first steps are always more difficult. And once you have experienced that growth, you are always optimistic about your first steps. And whenever now I have to do something new, I have to start something big, I think about my early days of 10 Minute School when it was very difficult. We did not have a lot of resources, and yet we fought through all the struggles to become what we are today. If that's possible, anything is possible.
Definitely. That was indeed, I believe, a very inspirational journey.
Yeah. So my next question is to Rafeed Bhaiya. So Rafeed Bhaiya, do tell us about your story behind starting Torun and where do you see it growing in the next 5 years?
Okay, so speaking of the side of the from the co-founders, I had the least contribution out of the other co-founders. So there was Tajdir Bhai, Shubhashish Bhai, and Arafat Bhai, who actually built the team. They carried out the plan, and I was the last person to be on board with them. So one day the three called me and said that I think we have similar thoughts. I think we have the same vision for an organization. So let's join together and build Torun. So I would credit my other co-founders for that. And where do I see it going in the next upcoming 5 years? Well, obviously I cannot say everything right in front of the camera, but we are actually working for our new e-learning segment, Torun Learn, which we launched last year, but we're still working to understand how students are not getting a few courses that they would want to get from Bangladeshi e-learning platforms. And other than that, we are also working on our content. We are building a much more robust team. We are trying to reach out to more universities. That's all.
Yes, indeed. And I believe that it's once again time to address some of the few questions that have been asked by a lot of our viewers who have been watching. I think first question was to Rafeed Bhaiya. So this is a question from Akash Bhaiya. So the question is to Rafeed, how do you manage your work, EC and studies all at the same time? Any specific tips?
Well, I already told a part of it a while back. Akash Bhai is actually my teammate. We used to do business competitions together. So yeah, firstly, you have to prioritize what to do at first and what not to do. And secondly, I think it's important that you know that obviously doing all the work is not going to make you it might make you a workaholic, but if you're not giving time to your family, if you're not having a proper sleeping schedule, if you do not have time for your entertainment, then probably that's going to have a negative impact on your other schedules. So yeah, prioritize, have time for the other things. And lastly, I would like to say that don't we don't always have the vibe that fine, suppose I want to work on a project, right? I might not always have the energy to come up with a new idea every now and then, but when I have that energy, when I have that level of energy, I think I should be working towards that. Maybe when the energy is low, I should be focusing on the other things. Very complicated answer,
No,
but yeah.
I think it was very specific. I think the next audience question, I would think Jay Sakib Bhaiya might be able to address it because he addressed part of it before. So this question has been asked by Ryan Ramesh Zahir. His question is: it is hard to maintain a good grade while focusing on extracurricular activities. So is it okay to have an average grade but having extra knowledge and more experience through these activities? How are your take on this?
I think it's what you value more. It's what you prioritize. I'll definitely say, and I am not authorized to say this, that you should not prioritize your CGPA. Certainly, your CGPA and your academics should be a priority. But with my personal experience, I have not seen that extracurricular activities take away so much time that you don't have enough time to study. If you are picking up too much or too many activities apart from your studies, then it might become a problem. If you pick one sport, one activity, I don't know, then you should be able to accommodate them. But I think we are in less control of our lives than we think we are. During your graduation, when you do fall in love with one particular ACA, or you do fall in love with your studies, they make their decisions themselves. So yes, have faith on yourself and do ask yourself that what you prioritize, and it's always going to be a balancing act. Balance it well.
Amazingly answered. I think the next question, I think Saib Bhai would be able to answer. So this is by Sartaj Imam Chaudhry. He asked, suppose I did my intern in bank, but after that I got a job in garment sector, or perhaps I became a restaurant manager. So then how should I cope up with it? Because it is very likely that I will be not able to work on the same type of organizations where I have done my internship. I believe a bit complex questions, but I believe
বাট
that you get the gist
আমি
of it.
আমি যদি আসলে বুঝে থাকি কোয়েশ্চেনটা, সেটা হচ্ছে আমি যে যেটা বলছিলাম, sometimes we do internship in bank for example but we end up working somewhere else. So it's about what Sartaj is trying to understand. How does it help, or do you get stuck because you have did your internship in bank? Do you get stuck or cannot move out? I think you can move out. It's about how you actually, how you take it. So কারণ internship জিনিসটা না, internship, it's an opportunity, it's available, and you have a very limited time scope to do an internship. Sometimes, to be honest, practically চিন্তা করলে আমি যে টাইমে ইন্টার্নশিপ করতে চাচ্ছি, at that point in time আমার preferred organization or my preferred যে ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড আমি পড়াশোনা করতেছি might not have it, but it is important to have an orientation. So you might end up in an X place doing internship, but and then for example he's saying you end up in restaurant manager or anything. But if I go into, at the end, if I land into my preferred organization which has nothing to do with my internship I did, or even the restaurant, whatever I did is nothing to do, I think it's still okay. It's about, if you can, yes, employer will ask you, why have you done an internship XYZ place? I mean, it has nothing to do, it's nothing to do with the organization you're just now applied. If you can build that connection, like why I have done that, I think it is helpful. So there is no point of this having to discourage, like, okay, if that's not relevant, let's not do it. Rather, I would say take all the opportunities for learning. Everything helps, to be honest, everything helps. But when you land into your dream job or the right organization, make sure that you tell them why you have done that and how does it help you to shape up and ready to make yourself ready for this particular job. So I think, yeah. So end of the
Yes.
day, just take all the opportunities in life.
Amazing answer.
Yeah, so my next question is to Sakib Bhaiya. Jabir, how do you look at this transition from a campus classes to online classes?
It's been difficult for everyone. It's been difficult for the learners. It's been difficult for the teachers. But I think it's something necessary. And I look at the bright side that this transition had to happen sooner or later. Even without a pandemic, we would have to be more adaptive to the online classes, because that's what opens opportunities across different geographic areas. Simply because you live in Bangladesh does not mean you should not be able to attend a class in Harvard. So I think that's where we're headed to. So this pandemic showed us that geographic barriers should not be a reason we do not avail quality education. So I really hope to both teachers, learners, and most importantly, the people who set the curriculum, the people who make the material, they take learning from this pandemic and they make more adaptive curriculums, more adaptive ways of learning, a better learning pedagogy, if I may say. So, if we are able to make curriculum and material, which is my day job, I am in charge of that. If we are able to make those materials which are appropriate for online education, I think we are going to have a better tomorrow in a post-COVID world, and we'll be able to use this mechanism for distant learning in future as well.
Amazingly answered, Bhaiya. I believe I would like to ask the same thing to Rafid Bhai. How do you look at this transition from on-campus to online classes?
Well, instead of thinking that someday it's going to end, the pandemic is going to go away, which many of the Bangladeshis apparently think, especially the policymakers, we should be working towards a curriculum, which Sakib has said, that thinking of the long term. And it should be very adaptive, whether it's we are doing online classes or doing physical classes. And not only that, I think speaking of the syllabi, the instructors should be focusing on how to update the lecture slides, not old slides which are not under development for the last few years. And also, they should be taking feedback from the industry specialists, from the students, on what else they can add to make the curriculum more rich and obviously suitable for everyone. And of course, another thing, I think the curriculum should be more relevant. The reason I'm mentioning this word again and again, the reason I'm saying this is relevant because apparently a lot of universities have this urge to go crazy over GED courses and they do over the core courses, and it actually doesn't make sense what that person is spending a year or two finishing his or her GED courses, which they could have done over a practical experience or something that could have helped them grow up in their career. So yes.
Saiba, how do you look at this transition, if you had to tell from your
Uh,
perspective?
okay. To be first of all, either you COVID world or non-COVID world, if it's going online, it's important that we adapt quickly to it because I mean, the organization perspective থেকে আসি, I have been working for almost, I think last year we have been working. I mean, here we have been working from home almost for 7 months. So for 7 months working from a home, an organization is running. If I just narrow down to me being a brand manager working for a brand, I have been managing my brand from home, sitting down. If this can be done, if it is can be done effectively, then I think every sector can manage to do it. So from the educational perspective, I think yes, there will be some initial. I mean, I cannot go very depth in terms of the Sakib because they are involved in this particular area. But the way I will see it, there will be some of the hiccups in the initial phases, how we adopt, because normally the way we are used to is actually going to the classroom, physical things. But now the creative challenge will be is how can I take it online so that maybe the same level or more impactful situations. I mean, the learning same remains same, but maybe online. But end of the day, I think it's evident that we have to go online. There is no choice. And going online is not only just avoiding the COVID or whatever the pandemic is, it opens the whole world, to be honest. It opens a lot of it's a wide range of things. So yeah, I think it's important how quickly we move there and how quickly we make it effective.
Amazingly answered. And with that being said, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being a part of our show. But at the same time, I would also like to ask you that how did it feel to be a part of this particular webinar discussion? I would like to ask Sakib Bhaiya if you could tell your final thoughts of being a part of this webinar.
And so I love being a part of this, and whenever I receive calls for these webinars where we talk about careers, where we talk about aspirations and dreams, I like to have my 2 cents said, because I think a lot of young people are right now in this pandemic are nervous about their careers, nervous about their future. So I think a bit of preparation in this stopgap can prepare you for a better tomorrow. So all the best to everyone who tuned in and watched this webinar, and best of luck.
Thank you so much, Bhaiya, for being a part of this. Rafeed Bhaiya, your take on this.
Firstly, Zidan and Zaga, you guys were amazing hosts. And yeah, I love being a part of this webinar, especially because it's a platform of my own university. And I love listening from Sakib Bhaiya and Saeef Bhaiya. It was an amazing show.
Thank you so much. And also, like before we conclude, we have Rafeed Bhaiya's book. So all those who are watching, please do grab your copy. I think Rafeed Bhaiya gave it to us personally, and it's an amazing read. I really love reading about personal branding. So please do grab your copy to all the viewers who are watching.
Thank you for
Uh,
the promotion.
with that being said, Saib Bhaiya, your final thoughts on being a part of this
No,
webinar.
no, I think it's great to be here, and এই type of initiative helps a lot. আমি আসলে আমার পড়াশোনা শেষ করছি আমি এডুকেশন থেকে বেরিয়েছি বেশ আগে, সো তখন এগুলি ছিল না, সো নাও আই ফিল these things help. What difference it makes, because sometimes you feel like I want to ask this silly question to a corporate guy or to people like all these people. So these platforms actually ensures you to ask any questions you want to understand the learning. So it's a great initiative and it's a great job.
Thank you so much, Saib
Thanks a
Bhai,
lot.
Rafid Bhai, and Sakib Bhai for being a
Thank
part
you
of
so
our webinar. And thank you to all the viewers for asking such insightful questions. Apologies from our end if we couldn't address all the questions due to time constraint, but we would surely try to get back to you. And with that being said, it's I would say a good night from our end. Hopefully, we would be able to catch up with you in some future webinars. And once again, thank you so very much to all our panelists. So good night.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.